why children's literature matters. People often ask me why I study children's literature. The question comes from the misconception that children's books are merely a stepping stone to real books. In fact, they provide the platform through which most children enter culture and learn to think about the world. And what I find particularly exciting is the way that children's literature, whether in the form of told stories, printed material, or performances, contribute to the social, political, and aesthetic transformation of culture. One way they do this is by encouraging young readers to challenge received opinion and approaching ideas, issues, people, problems, and places from new perspectives. Think, for instance, about when the child in Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes speaks truth to power. Such stories help children and young people recognize the fallibility of those in power and understand that the way the world is organized is not inevitable, meaning it can be changed, and that they can help bring change about. As well as offering new perspectives, children's writers and illustrators frequently reimagine the world as it is, was, and might be. Think, for instance, of how many folk and fairy tales show the weak and marginalized in society triumphing over the rich and powerful. In the interwar years, children's writers such as Geoffrey Treece championed workers over masters and told of injustices endured by ordinary people in many parts of the world. Such stories have come to be known as radical children's literature, a body of writing with a clear set of characteristics and ambition. Radical writing encourages social change. It introduces new visions of society and assumes the young are socially aware, competent, and interested in improving society. It also gives readers the skills, ideas, and information necessary to effect change. It aims for a stable, fair, and equal society. It features all kinds of children, not just the white, middle-class, able-bodied children of the past, and values youthful opinions. In other words, radical children's literature sees children and children's literature as replete with transformational potential. Radical writing has existed from the beginnings of children's literature, contributing to cultural revolutions and campaigns of resistance. Some of the earliest books look to the rising generation to help eradicate forms of injustice such as slavery. Thomas Day's best-selling novel, Sandford and Merton, which was published in installments in the 1780s, rails against the corrupting influence of the slave trade on British life. In it, schoolboy Tommy Merton, who began life in Jamaica as the pampered son of a British plantation owner, is introduced to a former slave now living in England. Learning how this man grew up, was captured, abused, and became free, makes Tommy, and so readers, question the very system that provides his wealth. By influencing young British readers, Day's book helped prepare the way for the Slavery Abolition Act in 1833. Slavery and racism have not disappeared, of course, meaning radical children's literature must continue to inform each generation of its pernicious effects in their own time. A notable example is the 1985 novel Journey to Joburg by South African-born writer Beverly Naidoo. This tale of two black children living under apartheid graphically illustrates the realities of the brutal injustices of that regime. Banned in Naidoo's native country, the book was published to acclaim in Britain. Today, radical children's literature informs readers of the many ways BAME people have and continue to contribute to British life and culture over time. From Katherine Johnson's books about people of color who have been erased from history to Dean Atta's 2019 verse novel Black Flamingo about a mixed-race drag artist. Radical writing for the young also highlights the prejudices and obstacles encountered by migrants and refugees who come to the UK to find safety and a better way of life. As the example of slavery shows, from its inception, radical children's literature has combated discrimination of all kinds, at home and in other countries. In the 1960s and 70s, there was a particular focus on the way the British class system damaged lives and divided families. An important strategy for addressing classism in children's books was to celebrate working class lives and culture, as in the Nippers reading scheme, conceived by Lila Berg and launched in 1968, and Alan Garner's Stonebook Quartet from the 1970s. An early Nippers author, Jacqueline Wilson, is one of the most popular children's writers of recent years. She grew up on a council estate and regularly writes books that explore and validate the lives of children and families affected by economic deprivation. Issues regularly featured in radical writing today include prejudice based on biological sex, sexual orientation, religion, and age. Some of the most effective ways of bringing about change come from works that appreciate and celebrate difference. Other significant topics regularly addressed in radical children's literature include pacifism, access to health, education, and opportunities, living conditions, children's rights, size, disability, and caring for the planet. Radical children's books have been highlighting environmental issues and encouraging children to care for nature for decades. In the last century, when the impact of industrialization, overpopulation, and excessive consumption was beginning to be understood, books about animals and the environment became popular. Dr. Seuss's The Lorax of 1971 warned against environmental destruction, while from 1979, Colin Dan's best-selling series The Animals of Farthing Wood showed humans' impact on animals' lives. These themes live on, for instance, in the award-winning novels of Jill Lewis, vet and wildlife activist. The turn of the millennium saw a great many stories in which the future is shown as difficult and unfair because resources are scarce on a depleted and damaged planet. Two popular series, Philip Reeves's Hungry City Chronicles, published between 2001 and 2006, and Suzanne Collins's Hunger Games books, which started to appear shortly after, are set in an apocalyptic future after the world we know has been permanently blighted by weapons and rampant consumerism. Such devastating critiques of humans' actions can lead to feelings of hopelessness, but radical children's literature as a body of work strives to balance such warnings with the belief that situations can be improved. Some books focus on collective action and political solutions. For instance, Faith Ringgold's Tar Beach of 1991 combines informative history with magical realist adventures to tell the story of American labor unions. Other books feature child characters helping to stop pollution, caring for endangered species, standing up to bullies, speaking out about abuse, and generally preparing themselves to bring up a more socially just and sustainable world into being. Given the many very real threats to the planet, peace, global economics, and health, there is a great need for radical writing that will prepare, sustain, and encourage young readers to become young activists.